Jurassic Park. That's the nothing person word of the day for Wednesday, 9/10/25. Jurassic Park, the movie, as in Raptors, Velociraptors, Toronto Raptors. A big article came out yesterday in the Toronto Star by a writer named Bruce Arthur, and it is about the Kawhi Leonard situation, which is just beginning. Let me give you a quick reminder of what Pablo Torre Finds Out did about a week ago. Actually, it's exactly a week ago on September 3rd, when at 5 a.m., Amin El-Hassan, myself, and Pablo Torre, with Pablo Torre's reporting, unveiled a story, spun a yarn that has caused a ripple effect that has lasted a week and will last a whole lot longer than that, about Kawhi Leonard and the possibility that he had a no-show job with a bankrupt bunch of schemers at a company called Aspiration, and that the Clippers and Steve Ballmer were very much involved. The story then continued with the Friday episode with Mark Cuban, with Pablo. The story continued with the Pablo episode with me yesterday on Nothing Personal. The story continued with an article in the Toronto Star, and I want to focus on that. Knowing, believing, hypothesizing, guaranteeing that there will be more out of Pablo. But what Bruce Arthur of the Toronto Star described should make all Toronto Raptors fans and all those in the NBA take note. Because over the past week, since last Wednesday at 5 a.m., there have been a whole lot of voices. There's been Ballmer sitting down with ESPN in what has turned out to be, and we talked about it on this show, a mistake by Ballmer, saying things that he shouldn't say in a scenario where he shouldn't say them. There have been people coming out of the woodwork to talk about Kawhi Leonard and his move from the Raptors to the Clippers in free agency. Sometimes when you do a report, it can die. You try to tourniquet it. You know that as an old Nothing Personal fan. We talk about when a bad story is coming to your team, you try to tourniquet it as a possible PR strategy. That means you tie a shirt around the limb that's bleeding or has been cut off, and so you don't bleed out. But other people believe that the right strategy is you got to fake it till you make it. You got to fight. You got to talk. But then there's people involved in a story like those in Toronto who have had a truth. And their truth is that the Raptors didn't have a chance to re-sign Kawhi Leonard back after he had won the title with the Raptors in 2019. And now, when the story becomes adjacent to what your story is, when the Clippers and Kawhi are involved in something, you feel as someone within the Raptors, oh, this could be my opening, albeit 6 years later, to get the word out about what really happened. I feel comfortable not being the first, but I don't mind at all being the second, third, fourth, fifth, or sixth. And so good reporters, and I'm talking about reporters who are not in the laps of the leagues, I'm talking about reporters who are willing to do their job, which is to report. Not just take a microphone with a platform and talk as though you know something that you have nothing new to add and have no information about at all that is additive to your listeners in any way. Don't worry about that, because there are still people willing to do the work. Bruce Arthur found people to talk to him about what it was like trying to get Kawhi Leonard to re-sign with the Raptors, what it was like to hear Uncle Dennis, or the representative, not the agent, the representative of Kawhi Leonard, to ask for things that were so absurd that there was no chance the Raptors would say yes. Now, keep in mind, what Bruce Arthur is reporting and what Dennis Robertson and Kawhi Leonard's camp was asking for is not against the rules. I want to be very clear. When Bruce Arthur, the writer for the Toronto Star, has sources that says that Kawhi Leonard's camp wanted a piece of the Toronto Maple Leafs, or that Kawhi Leonard wanted a sponsorship deal with team sponsors for at least $10 million a year in extra sponsorship income. Keep in mind, that's not a violation or a circumvention of the salary cap. Not counting that as part of his compensation and hiding it in a way that no one will discover it until someone tries or until the S hits the F, that's salary cap circumvention. So it is not proof that Kawhi Leonard was interested in salary circumvention. What is true is that he went to the Raptors and said, hey, I appreciate what you can pay me under the salary cap, but I'd like the following 5 things. Think about Juan Soto with the Mets. No salary cap in Major League Baseball. You can ask for and receive anything you want. And with the Mets, he did. I want a family suite. I want my family to have passes. I want certain tickets on the road. I want this plane. I want that suite at the hotel. I want this accommodation, that accommodation. Great. Steve Cohen admitted, why would I say no? Juan Soto said it looks like he wasn't going to say no. Why would I stop asking? All of that is normal in a negotiation, and you should do the same. When you feel you have leverage, don't stop asking for things. Now, at some point, you're going to go too far, and the other side is going to look at you and say, now you're just being a schnorrer. Now I'm done with you, and you risk the deal falling apart. But if you know that someone wants something badly that you have, and you know that you can push and then push and then push, the good negotiator knows when to stop pushing. From Kawhi Leonard's standpoint, what would be the reason? He knows who owns the Raptors. He knows what Maple Leaf Sports Enterprises is, MLSE. He's not exactly aware who owns the Leafs, but let's not quibble. He doesn't exactly understand what's going on in Toronto. Who could blame him? He just got there and had an amazing 4-rim shot against the Sixers to advance in that year's playoffs. He was the golden child, 2 rings. He was the number 1 catch. And if you are the Toronto Raptors, you are trying to get him. But at some point, it becomes clear that no matter what you would agree to, Kawhi Leonard is not going to sign with the Raptors. I've had that feeling before, that feeling when you go after a player and you know that player is not going to sign for you, and then you say, wait a minute, is it just money? We'll go up a year. We'll go up an AAV by 2 million, 3 million, 4 million, 5 million. There's got to be a number. Everyone's got a number. My experience is, of course, there's a number. Query. Did Kawhi Leonard have a number to return to Toronto? Of course he did. And he outlined it very clearly. The problem is, at the end, even after they won a championship with Kawhi Leonard, they could not bridge the gap between what Kawhi wanted and what they were able to deliver and the impact it would be of them delivering on the asks. Kawhi would have to find another team to satisfy his off-court needs. Is it proof that the NBA will look to in its investigation that a lot of the words that were said by Kawhi Leonard's representatives regarding sponsorship deals and getting extra money sound and ring true to what a no-show job would be, like the $28 million he got from Aspiration? When his representatives say that we don't want to do anything, Raptors representatives would respond and say, but a sponsor will want to do commercials, man. They'd want to arrange appearances. Uncle Dennis reiterated, according to Bruce Arthur and his sources, Leonard said, I don't want to do anything for the money, because Leonard was looking at it like comp, not like an endorsement deal. We call it on Pablo's show, it was called a no-show deal. I take a small exception to that characterization, but it's called Pablo Torre Finds Out. It's not called Nothing Personal with David Samson. As much as I like helping Pablo, and Pablo likes helping me, and we are teammates, I would characterize it as a show job. because Kawhi Leonard does have to play for the Clippers. Now, he may be hurt. He may not play 81 games. He may do load management and play 40 games. He may miss 40% of all Raptors games. Whatever you want to say. A no-show job is literally in my mind, when you don't have to show up anywhere to get paid. Part of Kawhi's job was to show up at the stadium, was to show up at home games, show up and go with the team on the road, show up at rehab, physical therapy. There were plenty of places that Kawhi had to show up. Now, filming a commercial, not so much. Retweeting, liking, having a part of a company, making them believe there's any sort of, through line with you and the company. No, but that's not what was ever contemplated by Kawhi Leonard when he was negotiating with the Raptors. What was contemplated is, I'll re-sign with you. Get me the money under the cap, quote unquote. Now get me the extra money. And by the way, I'm only going to do my original job, which is play for the Raptors. So make sure when you're cutting all the other deals, like if you give me ownership of the Maple Leafs, I'm not going to owners' meetings. I'm not going to hockey games. I'm not dropping the first puck. I'm not giving interviews. I'm not appearing on the broadcast. I'll go to Raptors games and be a player, but I want an equity position. Now, Uncle Dennis, smart guy, equity's where it's at. You have a chance to own something, own it. You can live a really good life on salary, but you get rich on equity. So I understand why Kawhi Leonard is looking for equity, trying to build up his portfolio in addition to the cash salary that he was taking. And the reason why this report in the Toronto Star is so interesting to me is that the NBA has no choice but to expand the investigation, because what the NBA had found back in 2019 when they looked into Kawhi Leonard, because there have been whispers around Kawhi Leonard for 6 years, the NBA found nothing of note. But Adam Silver was clear that if we believe in any way, shape, or form that there was something untoward that took place, to use the words of Steve Ballmer in his statement number 2, if we believe there's anything untoward now or in the past, we are free to look again at everything. With the law firm that they hired, Wachtell Lipton, running up the bills at a couple G an hour, you can bet your sweet bippy they want to look into as much as possible. And they will. I'm glad that Bruce Arthur took the time to do this report. You should check it out. I've summed up the article for you, but it is an article worth reading. Give him the click, because we're trying to promote people who are actually journalists, who are actually reporting on things that are happening versus just taking the microphone and supposing what is happening. You don't need a microphone or a platform. You just need a screen to understand what happened with Jalen Carter in week 1 with the Philadelphia Eagles, game 1 against the Dallas Cowboys, play 1 from scrimmage, post-opening kickoff, pre-1st and 10, a little spit. We covered it in great detail, and we were waiting for the NFL to release its punishment. The game, keep in mind, was Thursday night. Well, on Tuesday, which was yesterday, the NFL said, we've come to an agreement. What I liked about this is that they came to an agreement with all of the people of interest. They came to an agreement with Jalen Carter, with Jalen Carter's representatives, with the Philadelphia Eagles, the NFL Players Association, and the NFL. They locked hands with no spitting. They sang a little song, maybe about a Steve Winwood song, Higher Love. And they decided that the punishment for spitting is time served. And the time served was the fact that he was kicked out of the game 1st and 10 with 14 minutes, 54 seconds left in the first quarter for spitting on Dak Prescott. And so the thought was the suspension would be a game. He already got suspended a game. Kicked out, suspended, forfeit that paycheck. That'll be your fine. And we got ourselves a deal. I couldn't believe it. Adam Schefter had reported all this. Part of the agreement is that Drew Rosenhaus, who is Carter's agent, had to be very clear. Because if you do the math on his game checks, He makes 57,222 a game. That doesn't seem like a lot of money. I mean, it's a lot of money, don't get me wrong, but it's not like there are 162 games. There's only 17. 57 by 17, hold on for the math, that's under $1 million. Jalen Carter has access to more than that. If you look carefully, Jalen Carter got a signing bonus. What Drew Rosenhaus, and it was in the millions of dollars. The agent for Jalen Carter would not accept or agree to a settlement of this issue until the Eagles promised that they will not void any of the guarantees in Jalen Carter's contract as it relates to signing bonus payment forfeiture or any of the other guaranteed money. Drew Rosenhaus agreed to a settlement where all it is time served, 57,222. Thank you very much. That's it. The problem I have if I'm the NFL is I don't love this because does spitting in the first quarter, is that the time to spit? Is that when we're going to tell the players, listen, if you feel like a big goober coming and you really need to get it out and you're so angry with somebody, you got to do it early in the game? Because is the NFL saying if you do it in the third quarter and get ejected from the game, that doesn't count as time served? You get an additional game on top of that? What if you do it with like 14 minutes left in the second quarter? That seems to be you're missing 3/4 of the game. Is that enough? Or would it be 3/4 of that game, but then the first quarter of the next game, which to me is absurd? Like having someone sit out 1/4 of a game. I thought that I would never see it until I read and talked about Angel Reese serving a half. That was my favorite, Coca. Angel Reese suspended by the Chicago Sky for 1/2. Well, that opens the door. Do you remember there were punishments, and you may not remember. Side note story, Coca, please. I've punished players before and been a part of punishing players before where we say that the player can't start. But then we pinch hit the player. Or then we put the player in the 6th inning as a defensive replacement. But it was conduct detrimental to the team, and we'll show you we're not going to give you a GS on your biography. You're not going to get a game started. Now you're going to get a GA, a game appearance. So I've been a part of players being punished, but never by a league. That was internal, what we would do with players when we were upset about something they would do. We would say, all right, you're being punished. We're not announcing it, but you're not starting, and we'll say it's an off day, and you'll come in the 6th inning. I always wondered with the GMs who I worked with, do they really care about that, or are they super excited not to get stressed out pregame and not to have to worry about stretching because they're just coming in the 6th inning? Does it take the pressure off them? Shouldn't we tell the player, like, put him in the lineup and then scratch him from the lineup, and then the media would know because the lineup that we post and that MLB sees and releases has a change in it? And then the media is going to say, hey, what happened? And then we're going to say, you'll have to ask the player and then make the player meet the media. I always wanted to do that. Wanted there to be some consequence to the action that this player took with conduct detrimental to the team. What Jalen Carter did is worse. Way worse. So the NFL has to decide in its own mind several things before making this announcement. One, well, we've got some history here of some spitting. We had a player spit on a staff member in Major League Soccer, and that guy, Suarez, got 9 games, 6 League Cup and 3 MLS. Are they differentiating between spitting on a staffer and spitting on a player? Okay. Is that 9 times worse to spit on a staffer than a player who's on the field of play post-game, part of the team? I think the transitive property of team would indicate to me that whether you're a trainer, a manager, a coach, a doctor, if you're on the field, a media member, if you're on the field of play and you're spat on, I think that's bad. I thought 9 games for Luis Suarez, 6 League Cups, 3 MLS, fine. But if you're doing it on a football field where the NFL is a far bigger sport, a far more important sport in the United States, that you have to show a better example. As a matter of fact, the NFL told you that they believe the punishment to Jalen Carter is exactly appropriate. However, the NFL seems very inconsistent in how they are applying the word appropriate. It seems to me that there could be something here. It's the Eagles. It's Jalen Carter. It's the owner, Jeffrey Lurie. It's the current Super Bowl champions. Do you remember earlier this year we talked about, or it was written about, that there was a quarterly meeting? They happen 4 times a year, owners' meetings. Troy Vincent, former player who's now an NFL executive. Do you remember when he spoke to head coaches, general managers, and executives that sportsmanship was posing one of the biggest threats to the league's brand? Do you remember when Troy Vincent said, quote, there will be zero tolerance for acts that demean the game, and the league is going to come down hard on any violators? Do you remember when he spoke to Adam Schefter about that? This was their moment, and they dropped the ball. They fumbled it in a way that makes me feel like they're scared of Drew Rosenhaus. Why would you be? They're scared of the NFLPA. Why would you be? Scared of Jalen Carter? Why would you be? The thought that, oh, he's the second spitter and we can't overpunish the second spitter? No, you make an example. If you don't catch the first spitter, where Dak Prescott acknowledged he spat, but he spat on the ground in the neighborhood of the huddle, different than Jalen Carter spitting at Dak Prescott when they are face to face with a big loogie. A disappointing punishment by the NFL that is opening the door to great interpretation about at what part of a game can you do certain things. And that clearly shows, much like everything with the NFL, we'll talk a good game. We'll talk about player safety. We'll talk about sportsmanship. We'll maybe throw an extra flag or two on taunting. But when it comes right down to it, all is fair in football. I love new stadium projects. I do. You know me. I love it. I love when teams are after new stadiums or new arenas or new baseball ballparks. I love talking to you about all the public things that these teams do and how full of absolute hooey they are. I love when there's an announcement of a new stadium and everyone gets excited, and I get to tell you, because I'm a bit of a Grinch in this regard, I get to tell you, no, not exactly. That's not exactly the truth. The Denver Broncos are latest in my crosshairs because, man, they upped the ante. Now, Stu Sternberg was amazing when he did that whole press conference on the field announcing the stadium in St. Petersburg. We've saved baseball. Everything's great. Here's a picture of it. Let's take a tour. Didn't happen. Not happening. Man, I loved it when Ted Leonsis, the owner of the Wizards Capitals, announces, hey, man, new stadium, we're in. Oh, sorry, couple things we got to do before then. The Chicago Bears, downtown Chicago, we're in. Oh, out, we're in Arlington Park. Oh, out, in. I love all of it. The Broncos are trying a different approach, but there's a lot of holes in their approach. To all my friends in Denver, please just pay attention for the next few moments. A letter was written not just by your owners, your great owners, very good people, right? They're very good in the community, the Walmart people. You love Penner, you love the new ownership, you were tired of the Bolin fighting. You got a mayor of Denver in, governor of Colorado in. They all signed a letter that starts with Dear Broncos Country. I always love that. I would go with Dear Marlins fans, Dear Marlins Country, trying to make believe that we've got such a huge following, because I'll tell you, around the country, a lot of people are interested in the Denver Broncos' new stadium plan. Nope. But anyway, Dear Broncos Country. Today marks an important step forward in a shared vision for the Denver Broncos, the city of Denver, and the state of Colorado. I would have added something right off the top. Don't forget, owners, when you're doing letters like this that are going to turn out to be scrutinized and that are going to turn out to be not exactly forthcoming or true, put the fans in there right off the top. Today marks an important step forward in a shared vision for the fans of the Denver Broncos, the team, the organization, the city, the state. But they just forgot that. But okay, maybe the second paragraph will get better. Together, we are pleased to announce historic Burnham Yard in the heart of Denver as the preferred site for a world-class retractable roof stadium anchoring a dynamic mixed-use district. Interesting. Preferred site. I've got a preferred site right next to the AAA in downtown Miami. How did that go? I've got a preferred site right in the parking lot next to Dolphin Stadium. How did that go? I got a preferred site in the swamps of Jersey. How did that go? I like the word preferred. You got to use the word preferred because you want to say, hey, we prefer it, but a done deal? A done deal. We haven't even spoken to the owners of Burnham Yard, the Colorado Department of Transportation, but let's not quibble. Let's not get in the way of the excitement of the announcement. And then they wanted to make sure, paragraph 3, right there, in the spirit of a true civic partnership. There's music playing in the background in my head. I've got a little tear welled up in my eye as I'm so thrilled to talk to you about civic partnership. We're here for you, the fans, the community, the taxpayers. In the spirit of true civic partnership, the Walton Penner Family Ownership Group will privately fund this investment. No way. Paragraph 3, you're privately funding? That's the lead. That should be the top. It should be the headline of the letter. Dear Broncos country, this entire project will be privately financed. There will not be one penny of your money to be put into this project. To put it in paragraph 3, that must mean there's something else in here. Hold on. Let's put on the old spectacles. Let's look closely at the letter and find out why paragraph 3 started in the spirit of true civic partnership. It will be privately funded. No new taxes. Very funny. I got to say that too. No new taxes, just a reallocation of existing taxes. Shh, don't tell anyone. We are not going to raise the tax rate. We are going to keep the tax rate that was going to expire for a stadium district, and we're going to renew it. That's not a new tax. It's the continuation of an old tax. That's an old trick that we all use, so we can say there's no new taxes. However, it is a new tax because the old one would have expired. Or you can say it's not a new tax because there's a bucket of money that's used for a bunch of things, and you're going to take from that bucket. And that bucket's already full of stuff. So you're not creating any new buckets, but you're taking from a bucket that stops that bucket from giving to something else. But shh, it's a third paragraph statement. 4. While this is an exciting milestone, we recognize there's much more work to be done ahead of a completion for the 2031 NFL season, 6 years from now. So tell me, why? I thought that you have your site and you're paying for it by yourself. What exactly am I missing? What am I missing if you're only spending your own money and you don't need votes, you don't need approval, you don't need anything? You're buying land and building like I'd build a house. I guess I need permits. Is that it? I wonder why it's taking until 2031. Let's see. Uh-oh. Today is not yet a celebration, but rather a meaningful checkpoint reflecting years of research, collaboration, and planning? I'm sorry, folks. I just don't fully understand what we're doing here. We're down in paragraph 4. We thought this was a big day. Now we're understanding you're just saying this is where you want to build. We have teams announce this every month. Gedonnerstick. We want to build here. No, we want to build there. We'll build anywhere we can get a deal, but it's going to be private. Hold on. They're also telling you about all the great community benefits that will be part of this deal. Why do you need community benefits in a deal with all private money? There's got to be something I'm missing here. There's got to be public involvement. Let's see. Next paragraph. We are going to revitalize Burnham Yard. Guess what, folks? Guess what the public's going to have to do? Guess where there's going to be a vote? Are you ready? Wait for it. Yes, the dreaded infrastructure. Now, keep in mind, When the public does infrastructure for a ballpark, but not part of construction, you get to say the ballpark is constructed with private money, except the amount of public money that goes into it is huge. And the public could have put money into the construction and had you pay for the public infrastructure, like ingress or egress or parking or permitting or all sorts of other various costs that exist. But this way, when you make the public do something that you can call public infrastructure, and then you make the private people build the actual building, you get to say it's a building built with private money. Isn't that convenient? Now, the mayor came out and said, hey, we're not spending any public dollars on the stadium itself. Listen carefully to the words because they're not lying to you. When a spokesman for the Colorado Department of Transportation, which owns Burnham Yard, says, hey, haven't seen one thing about the deal yet. Understand what that means. When they require something, the Colorado Department of Transportation, in order to make the land deal, the Broncos are going to go to the public and say, hey, governor, mayor, we're not giving them that. We can't agree to that. You got to give them a little something to make them want to do this deal. The point is, this announcement by the Broncos, it's a nothing burger, but it looked good. It was a really cool letter signed by a lot of important people. But guess what? Done deal? It's about as done as a 3-minute egg. All right, Coca, how about a review? Oh, we're ready. The review. God, I love that music, Coca. I watch a movie every day. I told you yesterday I wasn't going to watch. This was one I got done in one sitting. It's the new Spike Lee joint on Apple TV Plus. It's called Highest to Lowest. Denzel Washington is in my top 5 of living actors. I love his movies. He's also my top 5 of, God, I don't want to see him get old. But yes, I also enjoy watching his son, Oi. When you've got a movie that has a cameo by friend of the show, Nick Turturro, and the Yankees are involved because Nick Turturro is symbolic and really he is the Yankees. The way Spike Lee is the Knicks, Nick Turturro is the Yankees, lives and dies with them. No small irony that Spike Lee got Nick Turturro, an actor, John Turturro's brother, got him to appear in this movie. I don't want to say Nick Turturro is the best part of the movie, but he certainly steals the scenes he's in. Denzel Washington is not going to win an Oscar. I did not believe any part of this movie, though I did enjoy watching A$AP Rocky act, and Rihanna will too. He was good. But the movie itself had all of the components of greatness, and you're waiting. It's like the 2005 Marlins. They've got everything they need, and then they just crap the bed as the season goes on, and they're sitting there holding their Peter as the playoffs start. That's what Highest to Lowest is. You feel as though it's starting right now. This scene, this moment, this bit of tension, this will be the time that this remake becomes worthy of your time. And then all of a sudden the credits roll and you realize that it never happened. That's a depressing thing. I do not feel the need for you to watch this movie. However, I do believe that having the respect for Denzel Washington and Spike Lee should make you watch the movie. So now you can say you watched it because you heard my review of it while still respecting and loving Spike Lee and Denzel Washington. And A$AP Rocky, for that matter. Tomorrow is Thursday. We've got something to talk about tomorrow, Coca. I'm reviewing a movie called Ex Machina. And that's a movie with Oscar Isaac and Alicia Vikander and Dom Gleason, who you know I love from About Time and various other things. And I rewatched it this week. And normally with my top 100, you'll hear it tomorrow. But Ex Machina is in my top 100. I don't really know the number, but I'll know it by tomorrow. And I'm watching a movie in my top 100 once a week. And after 100 weeks, I'm going to have to redo the list. Some movies are going to go higher. Some movies are going to go lower. We'll talk about where Ex Machina goes. That's currently number 87. Interesting, Coca. All right, we'll review that tomorrow. Try to watch Ex Machina by tomorrow if you can. Dear Scott, I'm looking forward to working with you as the playoffs start in October. I'm super excited for the possibility of your New York Mets getting back to the championship series and for you to no longer suffer the heartbreak that Mets fans have suffered for so many years. Some would say since 86, some would say since 15, whatever you want to say. This Mets team and their new player, Juan Soto, who came to you for $765 million, who started slowly but is having an MVP year, short of Ohtani, an MVP year. I hope that you are okay. I hope that you're calm. I hope that you didn't watch the Mets lose to the Phillies last night and be in full panic. I hope that you didn't pay attention to the fact that the San Francisco Giants are only 2 games behind you and the Cincinnati Reds are only 3 games behind you because you can't win a game. I hope that you are totally calm with the realization that Sean Manaea should never, ever start a game again for the New York Mets. I hope that you're fine that with the $34 million 2-year deals given to Manaea and Montas, that you recognize that Stevie's got the money to burn, that he might as well have taken the $68 million and put it into his fireplace at one of his residences because that's about what he got from Manaea and Montas. I don't want you to be upset that Manaea allows at least 4 earned runs in 6 of his last 7 starts because he stinks, or that he has an 8.5 ERA, or that the league is hitting 320 when the league doesn't hit 320 off anybody. I don't want you to freak out that your lead is only 2 over the Giants because you're wrong, Scott. It's 3. You have the tiebreaker over the San Francisco Giants, which means the Giants have to beat you by a game at the end of the season. If they're tied with you, you're going to be in the playoffs. Now, you don't want the Reds to catch you because the Reds do own the tiebreaker, but the Reds are 3 games back, which means you've got a 3-game lead over the Giants and the Reds. Here's why I want you to panic. Because the New York Mets end the season against the Miami Marlins in Miami. Because the New York Mets series before that is 3 against the Cubs. Because the New York Mets only have 17 games left and their lead is 3, which should be plenty, except they're the New York Mets. And you can take the owner out of New York. You can change it up, change the manager, change the players. You can do anything you want. And I've argued on this show definitively, clearly, and I think persuasively that players themselves do not view any action of a past team as indicative of a result of the current team. The Mets do not look at the Marlins and say, I'm scared. We're going to lose to them and they're going to knock us out of the playoffs. The players don't think that way. But I can, and you can, and Scott can. And then you can worry about it until it happens. And then as it's happening, if it happens, you get to say, I knew it. You get to have the greatest self-fulfilling prophecy of all time because you're a Mets fan. It's like being a Jets fan. You basically get to say that you're right every single year. It's like confirmation bias galore because you're waiting for bad, and we're in sports where bad happens to just about every team every year. What a crazy thing when your confirmation can be had when you have a 29/30th chance of being right. Those are amazing odds. Have you ever thought about that? Have you ever thought about how sure it is when you are a fan and you say, oh, it's not our year, oh, we're stink, oh, we're not going to win, and you have a 29/30th chance of being right, and then when you're right, you say, my God, how brilliant am I? I'm right? It's completely ridiculous what Mets fans do. But if you're Steve Cohen and you're David Stearns, it's time. And I mean right now. You get embarrassed by the Phillies, you still have 2 games left. You're then going to be home for 9. You're then going to end the season with 6 on the road against Chicago and Miami. I'm not a big fan of the all-in team meeting, but I am right now. There are certain times of the year where you have no choice but to sit with your team and see by looking in their eyes what it means. Do they understand the job at hand? The problem is They're going against Christopher Sanchez tonight. You can't have a team meeting when you're about to pitch and play against a guy who really is a Cy Young candidate. You just can't. So they're going to play the Phillies tonight, and there's not going to be any sort of meeting. But tomorrow's game is the last game of the series, and you've got your best pitcher, Peterson, going against Luzardo, who is inconsistent at best. You don't do it Holmes v. Sanchez, but Peterson v. Luzardo, hell yeah. I'm getting my team together at Citizens Bank Park in that clubhouse that's I've spent so many days in. I picture exactly where everyone sits. You stand up in the middle, and you have to sort of look around to make sure you have eye contact with each of the players. And you ask them a simple question. Do you guys want it? Because it's right here in front of you. You're being chased. You're not doing the chasing. You control your destiny. You want a chance to be better than what we were last year? Did it feel good to lose to the Dodgers in the NLCS? Were you satisfied because we weren't supposed to be there? Well, guess what? Your fingers are bare. Getting to the championship series, that's not the accomplishment. That's not what we're here for. We're here to win the pennant. We'll worry about the World Series when we get there and getting the big ring. Let's worry about getting the little ring first. To do it, we've got to win the pennant. You know how we win the pennant? By making the playoffs. You think this game against Philly doesn't matter because they've run away with the NL East? That's where you're wrong. We got to make a statement that we ourselves know that we can beat this team, and it gets us home for a 9-game homestand with a positive frame of mind, knowing that if we run the table, we could catch Philly, but running the table sets us up to get what we want in October, and what we want in October is the big ring. Are you in or are you out? Because the way we're playing, the way we looks like you don't give a flying rat's pituitary gland. So get out there and prove me right. That's what I'd be doing. We'll see if the Mets, it'll leak out. It'll leak out if the Mets have a team meeting. If the Mets lose to Philly tonight, Coca, I'm not going to make it an official wait to see because we don't need it. We've got a wait to see coming up next in the show. But I will tell you this very clearly. If they lose tonight to the Phillies again, there's going to be a team meeting, some sort of something before the game tomorrow. Don't worry, New Yorkers. Your Mets may be scuffling, but the Yankees are kicking ass. Nick, this one's for you. Yesterday, the Yankees beat the Tigers 12-2. The Yankees had an amazing 9-run inning to break open a close game. 2 Tigers relievers could not get an out without giving up 4 runs each. That hasn't happened for over 20 years. Just an example of the Yankees. Volpe was 4 for 4. Had an unbelievable game. 3 defensive plays that would knock your socks off and say, Rawlings, give him the gold glove. I can't fool people, can I? Are you fooled? There's a bunch of you who don't know what happened in yesterday's game. Coca's all fuming, yelling in my left ear because I'm here. It's not my right ear when I'm in this studio. It's in my left ear. He's saying, that's not what happened, you jackwipe. I know that's not what happened. It's opposite day. Get it? The Yankees lost 12-2. They got crushed. They're so bad. Volpe is so bad. He's batting 174 since August 1st. It's inexcusable how bad he is. He gets booed at Yankee Stadium on a consistent basis. He tried to bunt the ball. When you can't hit, you got to bunt. I remember, Coca, there's a few things that make me angry running a team. Number 1, don't walk someone. Give up a home run. Do not walk someone. Number 2, when we ask you to put a bunt down, put the damn bunt down. Bunting by popping it up, or bunting by swinging at the ball, bunting and missing and striking out. Unbelievable. We spend time during spring training, during BP. You spend time bunting before every one of your BP rounds. We teach you with really good coaches how to hold the bat, how to foul the ball, how to catch the ball with your bat when you're bunting. This is not like we're asking you to build an atomic bomb. But no, Volpe can't do it. Can't do it. When the Yankees gave up those runs yesterday, and it was the Yankees, spoiler alert, not the Tigers, I was totally joking. The Yankees lost 12-2. The Yankees gave up a 9 spot. The Yankees had 2 relievers who couldn't get an out. the Yankees had one of those games that makes you think, wow, this team does not look like a World Series winning team. Because one day they look great, one day they look terrible. And I remind you, the Dodgers have looked terrible plenty of days. There is no team that wins a World Series that didn't have moments where they looked terrible. So relax. However, I will say, Volpe's out of chances. So, Coke, I'm giving you this wait to see. Buster Olney on ESPN Radio said that rival executives think that the Yankees will consider moving on from Volpe this offseason. It's not a consideration. I don't care what happens in the playoffs. If he becomes Mr. November, Mr. October, wait to see. An official wait to see on the document at davidsamsonpodcast.com, where we have every wait to see with accountability. Volpe will not be on the Yankees in 2026. It's simply not going to happen. Now, there's a lot of other stuff that could change, but Volpe will not be on the Yankees in 2026. Wait to see. Nothing personal pick of the day. Nothing personal pick of the day. We had the Diamondbacks who are trying, man. They're trying after all of their injuries and all of their selling at the deadline. They're trying to stay relevant in a wild card race that the Mets are making a lot of teams feel relevant because of how bad they've been. The Diamondbacks and the St. Louis Cardinals are only 4.5 games back. That's playoff invoice worthy, baby. You can send out playoff invoices because you got a shot. Now you got to pass the Cardinals, the Reds, the Giants, and the Mets. So you got a lot of work to do, not a lot of games to do it. But when you're chasing the Giants, you got to beat the Giants. I had Zach Gallen as an underdog against Robbie Ray and the Giants. And the Giants have been hot. They're 10 over in their last 16 games, 13-3. They have turned it around. I believe what did it, Coca? I believe this. When on Nothing Personal, we gave you the stat that the Giants are the worst team in baseball since the Devers trade. The worst, like 30th out of 30. Since then, they said, we're beginning to look really bad here. We're going to have to win a couple games. We still may fall short, not make the playoffs, but at least we're not being looked at like the Rockies. So I should have gone with the trend, but I didn't. Giants are 13-3. We are 122-116 because we lost. Tonight may be just any night. Paul Skeens is pitching. You should watch Paul Skeens. Paul Skeens is not yet arbitration eligible, and he's going to win a Cy Young Award. That's how good Paul Skeens is. The thing is, they're going against the Orioles. And I've been looking a lot at the spreads when Skeens pitches, and you know that I've sometimes gone pro Skeens, sometimes against Skeens, because Skeens has given you some bulk, but not into the seventh inning, certainly not at this stage of in the season where the Pirates are going nowhere. I'm not even sure why they continue to start Skeens. I really would try to save him for next season and try to hope that it's better. Spread him out a little bit more. And the Orioles are plus 128. That is a tremendous amount for the Orioles to be. Now, you'd say the Orioles are a disappointing team too, and I would say, yeah, of course. But they're a better team than the Pirates. And their pitcher is no schlepper. So we're going to take the underdog in this game. Nothing personal pick of the day for Wednesday is the Orioles plus 128 over the Pirates and Paul Skeens in Baltimore. Coming up next hour, it's Wednesday. You know what that means. It's a So You Want to Talk to Samson Wednesday. And we'll do it after the break. Welcome back to Nothing Personal. It is Wednesday, September 10th, 2025. And when you've come across the second hour of Nothing Personal on a Wednesday, you know what time it is.
You know what I want? I want to talk to Samson.
So you want to talk to Samson. For all of the new listeners, and every week is a new record, so thank you. And all the people watching on YouTube right now, Nothing Personal with David Samson, hit subscribe. Join this army of people we have where we come to you every day, 2 hours a day. Interesting, the path of our show, and we love it. But there's a movie. There's a movie called Half-Baked. If you haven't seen it, check it out. Don't get confused. It's Half-Baked 1, not Half-Baked 2. And in Half-Baked, there's a character named Samson. And everybody wants to talk to this character. Now, of course, they're super stoned. Of course, it's called Half-Baked. It's a stoner movie. It's pretty awesome. If you like that, and it's legal where you are, and you want to become 68, 69 baked and watch the movie, and then call the following number to speak to Samson, you could speak to Samson, which is me. 631-377-4869. Coca, the number that you came up with, 631, you know that area code, 377, my initials, DPS, if you have a rotary phone, 4869. That's how we know when the show's going well, when we can drop a 4869. It means we're mistake-free. That's the phone number. So here's the deal. Call the phone number, leave a message, and we may play your voicemail on the air. Coca, this has been such a huge thing, doing a mailbag episode once a week for an hour. The problem is there's so many voicemails. It's so awesome. So keep calling, because you just never know what's going to suit me. But there's other ways to join the show. It doesn't have to be your voice. You can send an email at davidsamsonpodcast.com, which is our website where we have episodes and we've got merch, really cool merch. I got a picture yesterday of someone drinking with a pint glass. There's pint glasses on there. There's quarter zips and hoodies and T-shirts, whatever strikes you. There's documents. It's a cool website. Or, of course, you can find me on Twitter at David P. Samson. And you can DM me, and I will try to read it as best as possible. I want to start right now because there's so many unbelievable voicemails. But I want to start with an interesting one that I got DM'd to me. David, please tell me what happened between the Knicks and Ben Simmons. Did he really turn down the contract? Thank you, Mike H. from Toronto. Now, I don't know if you're Mike Hampton, but Mike Hampton is not in Toronto, and he's a friend of the show. He could have texted me that question, so I don't think that's him. But Mike, whoever you are, let me tell you what happened with Ben Simmons, because this happened yesterday, coincidentally, when I got this from you. Ben Simmons, you know that name. You know that name is one of the most overpaid players in the history of the league. The guy who makes a max deal, is max hurt, max ineffective, can't shoot, doesn't like to be around the basket, supposed to be a great defender, and all of a sudden basically became a nothing. Ben Simmons is not an attractive free agent. Ben Simmons has a Grand Canyon between his actual worth and his perceived worth by himself and his agent. Apparently, Ben Simmons, rumor has it, turned down a contract offer by the New York Knicks, and you look at the New York Knicks as training camp is about to start, and you say to yourself, Ben Simmons, where would he even fit? And the answer is Ben Simmons would fit into the veteran minimum slot. Like a teeny tiny contract, except for normal people, in which case it would be a lifetime of joy and you'd feel rich contract. But in the NBA, it's called the Veteran League Minimum Exception, which is not a lot of money. And Ben Simmons said, absolutely not. I will not play for that small amount of money because I'm Ben Simmons. I grant you, I haven't played more than 60 games since the 2018-19 season. That's true. Granted, I've only played 108 total games in the last 4 years out of a possible 328. I grant you that's one of every three. But I'm Ben Simmons. I grant you that I've made $203 million in my career. However, my role model, my jam is Latrell Sprewell. And Latrell Sprewell said it right way back in the day. That's your offer? That's your offer? I got a family to feed. I can't get out of bed for that amount of money. Go Google that. It's one of back then I was a Knicks fan extraordinaire. And when Latrell Sprewell said that, I couldn't believe that. I thought it was such an unfortunate way to be. And what Ben Simmons is doing, I can't imagine his agent is a guy named Bernie Lee, who's also the agent for Jimmy Butler. Do you think like there's a reason that those are his clients, Jimmy Butler and Ben Simmons? Do you think that that's the type of practice they have, which is a practice of total delusion and control? What exactly has Ben Simmons done where anybody thinks that he'd have the right to say that he has anything coming to him other than a league minimum? I'm just throwing it out there. Well, guess what? Bernie Lee said, you're going to come out and say that the Knicks made you an offer and that you turned down that offer because you think you're going to get something better? Guess what? I don't want to be your agent anymore. That's what I'm talking about. Bernie Lee looked up in the stars and he said, Ben, I've tried to be honest with you. The best you're going to get is a league minimum deal because you don't play. And Ben, unless you squandered your money with a bunch of investments that really were fake and you got schemed and you invested like an aspiration, I can't imagine that you don't have enough money to live. So what exactly is going on here? Oh, it's the you're old and delusional bit. I've seen that. Not interested anymore. See ya. Of course, the Knicks came out and said, offer? Offer? I didn't make no stinking offer. Well, the truth is probably in the middle. Here's how it works in sports when you meet with a player agent. Hey, how does your guy feel about being a Knick? Oh, he'd feel great. Absolutely. New York, the Garden. It's like his home. Okay. How do you feel about, the fact that we have no cap room? Yeah, I saw that, but you got some moves to make, I'm sure, open up a roster spot. Well, no. We have a roster spot, but it'd be about, the league, veteran minimum. Oh, well, let me get back to my client. Meanwhile, what the agent is saying is, oh my God, I think I'm going to get an offer from the Knicks. This is unbelievable. I get to call my player Ben Simmons and say that I got him into New York to play with a championship caliber team. This is like a dream. Ben, it's Bernie. How you doing? You will not believe what happened today. The Knicks may want to make an offer to you. I'm not saying they're going to, Ben, but they may want to make an offer. Really, what's it for, Bernie? The league minimum. What? Speak up. Well, Ben, it's for the league mandatory veteran minimum. Minimum? Did you say minimum? I ain't no minimum player. You call those Knicks back right now and tell them forget it. I want the mid-level exception. Well, they don't quite have that. Ben, don't bother me with what they have and don't have. You bend the rules. Break the rules. Make the rules. Do whatever you have. Minimum? Forget about it. Bernie Lee said to himself, you know what? I can't even go back to the Knicks. I can't. I've got a career. I've got a stable of players. I'm going to go back to the Knicks and tell them that my client will not take the league veteran minimum. He's Ben frickin' Simmons. That's what I'm going to do. Forget it. So he didn't. There it was. And the Knicks get to say, we never really made an offer. Ben Simmons gets to say, oh, there was an offer. Bernie Lee gets to say, oh, I got an offer, man. I was right there at the 1 yard line ready to punch it into the end zone. Mixing sports metaphors. That's okay. Ben Simmons is not going to be in the NBA this year. He's just not, Coca. You know what? Can we make that a wait to see? Can we do a wait to see during the So You Want to Talk to Samson Wednesday? Have we ever crossed the streams like that before? I do not think we have. You know what? Today's the day. It's September 10th. Today's the day. It's December 25th. I'm doing all sorts of workouts right now in case we do a repeat. Today's the day. It's the first day of Hanukkah. Hold on, I got one more Coca for you so you can use this no matter what. Ready? Here we go. Today's the day. There you go. See, now we can replay this whenever we want when you decide it's time for us to take a little vacay. Wait to see. I got one from the first hour. The wait to see that Anthony Volpe will not be a Yankee in 2026. Here's a double wait to see from episode number 1353 of just these type of episodes. Forget like the old mailbags and sit downs. This is like 1353 of word of the days and pick of the days and reviews. Holy shnikes, Coca, that's a lot. Let's keep going. Wait to see. Ben Simmons will not play one game in the NBA this season. He will not get 1 minute of playing time in the NBA this season. Mark it, Coca. Mark it. I know you're pressing buttons, doing a lot of stuff because you're solo, and it ain't easy. But make sure you get this one. Ben Simmons, wait to see, will not play 1 minute in an NBA game this season. Pigs get led to slaughter. Chazers get led to Chazerland. All right. Voicemail.
Hello, David. I'm sitting here in the Rogers Center and rented out a room in center field at the hotel to watch the Astros take on the Blue Jays for this series. And I'm looking at the 50-50 split winner takes home pot, and it says $593,000. And back at Daikin Park, we don't get more than $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 per game that anyone donates. I'm just wondering if you know on the back end finance aspect of this, is this a combined to the season thing, or is this they have an ability to give more to their winners? And also, how does that 50-50 take home bet work when it comes to these stadiums? Thank you so much. I'll hang up and listen.
So, do you know that at the Sky Dome in Toronto, there's a hotel in center field that you can rent a room like you're staying at a hotel, and it literally looks down. You can watch the game, and they're advertised as such. Now, you're right. There have been some shenanigans. There have been some people who there are little signs in the room. Hey, no freaky. Because it's happened. Google it. That said, this person is calling about a 50-50 raffle. Let me explain what that is. That's 2 Canadian questions. No, the first one wasn't Canadian. Sorry. Scratch that. 4869. Thank you. Oh, yeah, the first guy was from Toronto. It is 2 Canadians involved. Although this guy's a Houstonian. God, if you're in Houston right now and you're listening to this show, Dave, I love you. It's going to be okay. You've got this. Oh, side note, it's also Tony's birthday, the greatest Survivor player in the history. He won $3 million. He won my season 28, or I was in his season. Congratulations, Tony. Happy birthday. You know what we do every year on your birthday? We raise a glass and we toast 1 year closer to pension. All right, back to the show. So 50-50. Let me explain. There's a thing where we go around and we try to raise money for our charitable arm. So we'll go to people and say, we have an idea. Give us $1. We'll take 50 cents of that dollar and put it into a lottery. And then we'll take 50 cents of that dollar and we'll give it to ourselves. And we'll use that 50 cents that we take in order to do good things in the community, in order to fulfill the community benefits that we've promised in our stadium agreements and that other teams have promised in their stadium agreements. Remember the Broncos, all the community benefits that are coming? Well, you need money to do it. So you budget it and you try to have a source of funds other than the owner, and a source of funds is you, the fan. And what a great way. It's sort of like the scratch-off lottery or the general Powerball lottery, which is the money is used, part of it's given to the winner, and the other part is used for other stuff. The reason we call it 50-50 and all teams do it is that it's literally a 50-50 raffle. $10 in, $5 out. Great. Now, sometimes we play with the number because we want it to look bigger and more important. So the Marlins, as an example, like every team, would budget a certain amount of money that the team is giving to its charitable arm each year. It's a budget line item. And it's a charitable deduction for the team because they're giving money to a 501c3, which is a legitimate charity that is called Miami Marlins Community Foundation, Miami Marlins Charitable Foundation. You can name it anything you want. When you know that you are budgeting to give money from your operating, basically from your operations, where you've got player costs, you've got staff costs, you've got marketing costs, you've got PR, you've got finance, you're paying somebody in marketing, whatever. One of the lines is, let's say, $1 million to charity. What we do with that is we break it down even more, and we will get into very specific details. We're going to buy a table at the cancer event for 25 grand. We're going to be a sponsor of this charity for 100 grand. And we will go down the list and then allocate the way we want to for our charitable endeavors. One of the lines is, let's prop up the 50-50 to make it look impressive. Because before I used to do that, people would get to the ballpark in Pro Player or in Marlins Park, and 50-50 would be like $900. And then we'd want to sell a 50-50 ticket, and people would be like, wait, I can win like $450? Sorry, I'd rather buy an extra piece of sushi or another cap. Now, I'd rather you buy a cap, better margins. But anyway, I understand where your head's at. So what we would do is we goose up the 50-50. So before the gates would even open, you'd look at the 50-50 board and it would have $10,000 because we put the $10,000 in the kitty to start, knowing that when we put in $10,000 on the board, we're really giving away $5,000 because only 50% of it will go to the winner. When the Yankees were in town, or it was a big series, or we're on national television, which we rarely were, we'd goose it up even more because we'd want to look like, oh, we got this going. It's one of the ways that you can make yourself and your team look like things are happening. But 600 grand? When I saw this and heard this email, it made me question. I've never seen one that big. I'd buy 10 tickets to try to win 300 grand. Why not? What's happening here? Well, it turns out that Jays Care, which is their charitable foundation, they've got a 50-50 that's known as the biggest 50-50 in all of MLB. They believe that this is like the way, because what they do is they combine games. So they will do like homestand jackpots, where they will have anybody who buys a 50-50 ticket during the course of the homestand, it goes into a one winner take all in the final home game of a homestand. That's really smart. I always would just do one game at a time with a winner each day. The thing is that my view was, how do I get someone to go to game 3 of a 6-game homestand when going to game 3 means you buy a 50-50 ticket, but you won't know that you win until game 6? Now, thank God you don't have to be there in order to collect. What they say is you just have to have bought a ticket in Toronto for the game, a game, but which game? So one of the things that is interesting here is you can go to a game, buy a ticket to a game, which means that you buying a hotel room doesn't count. You got to buy a ticket to a game and then participate in the homestand jackpot and then win that amount of money. That's cool. They also do a lot of other things where we didn't think of doing this. And Toronto's fantastic of Mark Shapiro and Rogers to think about this. But they'll do like bonus raffles as part of 50-50, where it's not just money you can win, but you can like buy more raffle tickets, or you can win vacations or prizes or experiences. What a smart thing. Because some people would say, hey, I'll buy a 50-50 ticket. It'd be nice to win 10 grand, but man, if I could meet Vladimir Guerrero Jr., I'd rather do that. And you go to Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and say, hey, by the way, twice a year, we're going to need you to meet a fan who wins a raffle prize. And players do it. You spread it out to other players, making sure that everyone gets a chance to do something they don't want to do. So what you saw from your hotel room with the shades open, fully clothed, I suspect and hope, is the Blue Jays doing something that many, many teams don't do, haven't done. But man, that sounds like I'd like to copy it. It's really cool. So that's how 50-50s are around the league, and that's how they are in Toronto. Good luck. Enjoy your hotel stay. All right, Coca.
Hi, David. Thank you for everything. I've been here since the beginning, and I just called you, but I almost got in an accident, so I'm going to redo it. I had a question about if it was possible for the MLB Players Association to purchase some minor league teams as a point of leverage for negotiations. Because if you can own the full group or have the full group, wouldn't that give you more control or more leverage in negotiations? That's what the NBA has. That's what the NFL has. It's all a group. And it seems like MLB should have gone that route.
Let me stop before we answer that question. When you are calling and leaving a message at 631-377-4869, can you not do it while you're driving? I know that we're all on the phone when we're driving, and we shouldn't be. We're all texting when we're driving. We shouldn't be. It's a quick way to be a statistic. There is the line is open 24 hours. Just sort of make note to be on firm ground. I hope that you're okay, whoever it is that just left that message, because it sounded like you were in an accident, getting into an accident, just got into an accident. That does not make me proud. What makes me proud is you being a fan of the show and being a subscriber and listening and telling your friends, but being safe, because I don't get to count you if you're dead, and I want to count you. Now let's get to the question. Why doesn't MLBPA buy minor league teams? Well, let's start with the fact they're not allowed to. So we could just, that could be it, next voicemail. But I want to give you some information about that. Why is it that the the Major League Baseball Players Association, which is all of the players, would not have the ability to get together and use the money they have to invest in minor league teams? It is not about who's got leverage over who, or MLB and the commissioner being concerned that this is what the union has and the union could get in the way of a collective bargaining deal, but they're part of a union. They do collectively bargain with the owners without having an ownership piece. It is quite important for there to be no conflict of interest, because if you own a team, as we've seen with other players who own teams after their playing career is done, keep in mind that what happens is you become the exact man that you spent your lifetime fighting against. It's like when a small payroll owner, John Henry, goes to buy a big payroll team, the Boston Red Sox, and all of a sudden, instead of being a small market hawk, he becomes a large market pain in the neck. Yeah, it's like that. When you are a player negotiating against owners, you cannot be on both sides. Why do you think that we don't allow player owners? Why do you think we don't allow it? Because definitionally, it would cause a conflict that is not fixable. Owners of major league teams and minor league teams are in the opposite camp as major league and minor league players. So take that as step one. Step two, leverage in negotiation is what you mentioned. Would owning a minor league team, would owning a team in general provide leverage? Well, it would be disqualifying. And if you're disqualified from participating in a process, you don't have any leverage inside that process. Think about that. If you have a perceived advantage that is so great, it's sort of like being the East German judge in gymnastics during the Cold War. Basically, you're ignored. If you are in a position where your leverage is so great or your power is so great that you're so far out of the realm, like 3 standard deviations away from center, which means you're an outlier. And outliers tend to have less control, less impact over an issue that's being discussed. Being an owner player would create that. So when you're trying to gain leverage in a negotiation, and we talked about this at a recent show, it may have been this week, I can't remember. It may have been today. This is how I am. I don't remember. But when you're trying to get leverage in a negotiation, you have to understand when it's too much. This, my friend, having MLBPA buy a minor league team as a way to gain leverage in a CBA negotiation, NGTH, not going to happen. Next one, please, Matthew.
Hi, David, Coca, and Jack. This is Jeff in South Florida. David, What's your assessment of the job Peter Bendix has done with the Marlins? Do you see some path to contention eventually with what he's doing? And how did you feel about the decision to not trade pitching at the trade deadline this summer? Thank you, guys, and I'll hang up and listen.
Thank you for that. Let me start at the end when you're asking me about the Marlins. I don't know Peter. I've met him when I went to Jack McKeon's Hall of Fame induction. And I know why he was hired, because Bruce Sherman wants to be the Tampa Bay Rays. And Peter came in with no management ability, with no management experience, the inability to manage people. However, had a brain that Bruce Sherman thought would be able to make calculated decisions that would result in sustained competitiveness and winning. Of course, there's a lot more to being the president of baseball operations than being able to have an analytic brain. There's a lot of people involved in your baseball department. You cannot make decisions solely on your computer. You cannot run a team without being a part of the team. You have to have people skills. No matter what happens, you're going to see the fulcrum now is going to change back toward people who can actually communicate, not as robots. That said, I want to be clear about what the Marlins have done. This past trade deadline, do not forget what I told you about the Marlins, is that all the winning they did before the deadline totally screwed Peter, and it screwed Bruce Sherman badly. They didn't want to win that many games at that point in the season because it gave everybody false hope, including Bruce Sherman, that they could be a playoff team. And we told you then, and we tell you now, MLB is a long season. The Miami Marlins had no chance to be a playoff team because the season would show the weaknesses, and there's nothing wrong with it. Man, I went 1-17 in making the playoffs. So I am not telling you that I could be better or was better, because I wasn't. However, you want to be delusional? That's the David Samson plan. Hey, we're in it. We got a shot. Let's go after it. Let's keep trying. The problem is that's how you stay mediocre. What the Marlins were forced to do by not making any true deals at the deadline is they missed opportunities. They thought their window had opened earlier than what they expected it to because they had that stretch of playing well. If the Marlins were having that stretch now, which they're not, you'd get to say, hey, what a great way to head into next season. Look at all the positives. Look at their new kid, Jacob Marcy. He looks amazing. Look at the fact that we have Kyle Stowers, who was in the All-Star game, who is in the swing-off, the home run-off, who is just an unbelievable piece of a trade that we acquired. He's like an MVP. He's hurt. He's going to come back. Look at how great Sandy's been, how great it will be to have him at $17 million next year, when you're right, he was pitching to a 7 ERA, the worst qualified pitcher in baseball. Now he's pitching at a 3.5, still not a $17 million pitcher for a team like the Marlins. There are players who have done well. There are players who have not done well. Yuri Perez. There's players who have started off unbelievably. Augustin Ramirez, oh my God, we got the greatest catcher of all time. Things tend to catch up with you. Hey, we got Victor. Oh, that's right. It's actually his brother. Let's see if he can hit a home run, join this team. Griffin Conine was playing well, got hurt. Hopefully will come back this year or be ready to go next year. The thing is, when you are building the Marlins, what are you building toward? You're building toward a window that will open where you will be competing through September with a chance for October. Not the one-off playoffs where, hey, we don't have the financial ability to actually make this window last longer. Or A, we made the playoffs in a COVID-shortened season where it was a 60-game sprint where anything can happen. When you are a low payroll team, which the Marlins will always be, they're still paying Giancarlo Stanton next year. When you're a low payroll team, you've got to have the overperforming young players sprinkled in with overperforming mid-level players. What the Marlins needed to do this trade deadline was to get more people into the system because you're not going to get it all right. And the Marlins haven't, but no team has. So you're asking me for my assessment of Peter, and my answer is I don't have an assessment of Peter quite yet because I don't know whether or not, A, he's got complete control, and B, if he does have complete control, whether or not the moves he's making and the firings he's done and the redoing of the entire development system, scouting system, basically changing how everything was done under Jeter, which certainly didn't work. So anything opposite of what Jeter did has a better chance of working. But still, we got to wait and see if what Peter's doing by undoing Jeter and restarting everything opposite. But we learned when Jeter did everything opposite of what I did, it didn't work. What I did didn't work. So being opposite of Jeter may not work. That's how hard it is to have it work for you at the big league level. The New York Yankees, Coke, are about to win their 81st game or 82nd game. And it will be, what is it, Coca? 30 years of never finishing below 81 wins. Do not take that for granted. The level of continued mastery of the Yankees during the regular season, at the very least, don't take it for granted. It's damn hard to have a window, even if you're the Dodgers and Yankees, to have a window like that. Pretty amazing. So I will get back to you on the Marlins and my assessment. But his decision not to trade pitching was a decision that came down from ownership because the team was winning at the worst possible time. Remember when they got back to 55-55 and swept the Yankees and everyone was like, oh my God, this is the greatest thing ever? Well, guess what? They're 11-24 since then. That's how it goes. All right, Coca, next email.
Good morning, David. You know, with all the success from the podcast and YouTube, you know, you got a lot of new listeners, and one of my favorite all-time stories is the story about the bus. And those that know exactly what bus I'm talking about, and I don't know, I just thought maybe you could bring everybody up to speed on the bus, on Jeter's bus story, and it was just so great. And, yep, I love the show, love you, love everything you guys are doing. You and Matt Coca, love you guys, thanks for everything, see ya.
That's funny. That's a lot of love. I don't know who you are, but I love you too, man. Thank you. Thank you for telling me. And you're right. We've got so many new listeners. Coca, is today the day? Do we really want to do this? I mean, it's in the show, so I guess we're doing it. What the hell is he talking about? If you've heard this story before, get ready to smile. If you haven't heard it before, every word I'm about to tell you is true. Every single word. When John Henry owned the Marlins, he had a bus, and I don't mean like a school bus. I don't mean like a little yellow bus. I don't mean a big yellow taxi. I mean one of those big rock star tour buses that is so cool. When you open and look inside, there's like couches and TVs and refrigerators, and it's like a luxury multi-million-dollar bus. John Henry would take that bus with a driver named Big John Anderson. Love you, Big John. Big John would drive John Henry to pro player from his house in Boca to the game, back, to the game, back, always on the bus. The Marlins bus was a thing. During spring training, John Henry would get driven to Vieira and back to Boca, to Vieira, back to Boca. You see, the Marlins used to spring train up in Vieira, Florida. So when it came time in 2002, when the famous franchise swap happened, where John Henry wanted to get out of Florida because he couldn't get a stadium. He hated South Florida, and he wanted to get to California. He wanted to buy the California Angels from Gene Autry. We wanted to sell the Expos because we weren't allowed to relocate the Expos. We couldn't get a ballpark done in Montreal, so we had to get out of Montreal. So we said, hey, John, we'll buy the Marlins from you. And then we got to find someone to buy the Expos. Baseball said, we'll buy the Expos. How about that? John Henry said, that sounds good, but I got to buy the Angels. I can't get a deal with the Angels. Baseball, Marlins, Expos. They got together and said, wait a minute, the Boston Red Sox are going to be for sale. It's supposed to be an auction, but don't you worry. I can arrange this. All you got to do is get together with Larry Lucchino and Tom Werner, and you can buy the Boston Red Sox from the Yawkey Trust. I promise you it's going to work. But you got to sell the Marlins to Jeffrey. And Jeffrey, you got to sell the Expos to baseball. It's all going to work. when we came up with this franchise swap idea, when I was with our vice chairman, our one lawyer at Proskauer, and then the president of baseball, Bob Dupay, and then Lucinda Treat of the Red Sox back then, not with the Red Sox anymore, gone on to much bigger and better things. Anyway, I digress. We're negotiating this deal, and it is a very, very complicated deal. And one day, I'm sitting around with our owner, and I'm saying to myself, you know what I really think would be cool? Why can't we get the Marlins bus? John Henry loved his bus more than he loved his family. John Henry would not sell that bus to us. And I said to John Henry and to John Henry's negotiators, we want the bus. And John Henry and his people said, you're not getting the bus. You can do the transaction. We'll sell you the Marlins. I'm going to buy the Red Sox, but you're not getting the bus. And I said, okay. Called up Bud Selig, called up Bob Dupay, called up John Henry, and I said, the deal's off. The only way we will buy the Marlins is if we get the bus. And John Henry said, absolutely not. And the deal was off. This unbelievable franchise swap. Lawyers had been working. We had documents done. We are 2 days before the announcement, the close, the vote. And I canceled the whole thing. The owner, Jeffrey Lurie, was like, David, what are you doing? I'm never going to be on that bus. You can't stop this. We may be out of baseball. What are we going to do? And I said, hold on. We've got all the leverage in the world. John Henry doesn't want to stay with the Marlins. Baseball has to get this deal done. Trust me. Trust me. We're going to get the bus. Then one night at a black tie event, John Henry was wearing his tuxedo. I reached out to him one final time and said, John, the deal is either a go or no go as of tomorrow. This is your deadline. He said, David, and this is exactly how it happened. You're going to blow up this deal over an effing bus? And I said, John, we want the effing bus. John hung up on me that night. And little did I know that he hung up in a state of pure frustration, anger that would last decades. Because guess what call I got right after? It was a call from John's chief negotiator where Lucinda said, it looks like you got the effing bus. Because John Henry blinked. He realized as part of the deal that we were going to get the bus, a bus that we used with the Marlins all throughout my time there, from 02 to 17. It's an amazing bus. It's called the Marlins bus. Guess what? 2017, the owner of the Marlins says, David, sell the team. I said, fine. Hey, Alex, you want to buy the Marlins? Hey, Derek, you want to buy the Marlins? Hey, Romney, you want to buy the Marlins? Hey, Jorge, want to buy the Marlins? Somebody, buy the Marlins. All right, 2 of you want to buy it? We're going to keep upping the price. We're going to keep going, keep going. All right. $1.2 billion. All right, Derek, you win. Alex, go buy the Timberwolves. You're going to be way happier. Trust me, way happier. Okay. The deal for the Marlins was that Jeter would buy all assets. It was an asset purchase agreement. One of the assets of the Marlins was the Marlins bus. A couple days before the deal was ready to close, I went up to Derek Jeter and Jeffrey Lurie, and I said, you know what? I don't want to give the bus. I want to keep the bus. And Jeffrey Lurie said, you cannot mess this deal up unless you've got A-Rod ready to go. Do not mess up this deal for 1.2. I said, Jeffrey, I got this. Derek, we're not giving you the bus. We're taking the bus. Derek, I'm telling you, we're not giving you the bus. You want to buy the team? I got a whole deal done with someone else, A-Rod, someone else who doesn't care about the bus. Believe me, I'd be more than happy to give him the team. I didn't have that. Derek said, fine, take the bus. So guess what? Jeff Conine and I started a company. You can look it up. It's called WGTFB LLC. We got the effing bus. WGTFB. And we bought the bus. That's a true story of what happened with the bus. Thank you. God, I haven't told that story in a long time. So for all the new viewers out there and all the new listeners, you now know the story of the Marlins bus that started with John Henry, did never get to Derek Jeter, and is still, as we speak today, owned by Mr. Marlin and me 50-50. Okay. What's next? Ooh, next is what was this, Coca? A written question. Hello, David. Hello. It's a good way to start. Thank you for the show every day. I appreciate the 2 hours every day. I would rather my voice not be on the show. Okay. No problem. Can you explain the settlement that the Murdoch kids did? Is it really like the show Succession? And what does it mean for sports leagues, especially baseball? I'm in LA, so I don't watch live. Jenny. Oh, that's not your real name, is it? I mean, it could be. Do you know, Coca, that every time I do a show, whether it's in Canada, whether it's in the US, whether it's on CBS, whether it's DraftKings Network, when I'm asked to do a mic check, I'm known for this because I've done the same thing since my media career started. My mic check, normal people, mic check, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Some people, mic check, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. My mic check has always been the same, and producers around the country know it. Mic check, 8675309. That's always been my mic check. Now, you know, of course, it doesn't matter what numbers you say. There's no reason to go 1 to 10 or 10 to 1. A mic check is literally to check the gain on the mic, and you can say anything. You can say mic check, Gorgonzola, blue cheese, Jarlsberg, Brie, Gruyere. That can be a mic check. So my 8675309 is Tommy Two-Tone. Jenny, you've got my number. I want to make you mine. So if this is Jenny from Tommy Two-Tone, then that's really cool. Thank you for asking the question. And yes, Succession, the Emmy-winning TV show, one of the greatest TV shows of all time, was modeled in theory after the Murdoch family. I went to Horace Mann High School with one of the Murdoch kids. And it was always clear even then that they were going to have a life a little different than mine. And my life was going to be super different than most. So as lucky as I am and fortunate, and which I am both, Lachlan and other Murdoch kids have been in a position where they have basically gotten ready to inherit the empire that is Fox. And Fox is an empire. It is not just about Fox like your local Channel 5. It's not just about Fox Sports thinking about Jimmy Johnson retiring. It's not just about Fox and what the television show is or the motion picture studio. Its tentacles are everywhere. It has become a global company. Billions and billions of dollars of revenue. Just hugely successful. But what happened is that Rupert Murdoch is getting older because unfortunately that happens every day. If you're lucky, Rupert Murdoch is going to croak one day. Then what happens? What's the succession plan? Well, wouldn't you know it, there's been a bunch of litigation over it already. Now, it is true Rupert Murdoch has had a wife or two. It's true that he's got a bunch of kids, and it's true that Lachlan's been the one who's sort of running the company, but it's also true that there's a lot of the other kids who are like, wait a minute, I can do that also. Here's an idea. Let's go to court in advance. Well, guess what? They just settled. It really is something. And we touched on it yesterday. Stop fighting with your family about money. Just stop. Please. Get a job. But there's been a long-running intra-family dispute for control of the entire Murdoch family empire, and Lachlan Murdoch won. Now, you could say they all won because Murdoch's other children, he's got someone named Elizabeth, James, Prudence. You can guess in what order everyone was done. However, I don't even know, but I'd fashion a guess that Prudence could be the youngest, but I don't know. Each of them is getting about $1 billion. Yes, that's a $1.1 billion each. They are going to give up their holdings in Fox Corp, News Corp, etc., and they're going to get $1 billion each. Not shabby. I like their chances of being okay, although sometimes 50-50 winners who get $1 billion end up having not okay, but I think the Murdochs are going to be fine. But what this means with Lachlan Murdoch taking over and continuing his role as CEO, as executive chair, is you can expect some of the same things that you've been seeing Fox do. When you've got someone else in control, there's a risk that you don't know what that person will be like. With Lachlan, we have an idea. Lachlan likes the sports deals. Lachlan enjoys the fact that Fox has a deal. They're looking to expand, whether it's F1. They've got the deal with NFL. Their MLB deal, which ends in 28. They would like to extend and expand that deal. With him keeping control, he's the one who's been interested in what they're going to do from a streaming standpoint. Remember that Fox was not interested in streaming. Do you remember that? And now all of a sudden they're not just dipping their toe in, but they're going to become major streaming players. Well, when you have a public company, you have research analysts, you have investors, you've got calls that you do, quarterly earnings calls. You are constantly having to show under your kimono what's going on. There is an investment firm who did a research note on Fox and this deal and said something interesting about this new family succession plan. And he wrote that now that Lachlan Murdoch has cemented control in a post-Rupert world, we would not be surprised to see an increased level of aggressiveness around mergers and acquisitions. While Fox bought back $1.25 billion in stock this past year, with the company dramatically outperforming its peers, the company is sitting on considerable balance sheet firepower. What does that mean in English? That means that Fox has been running their business so successfully that they've got a lot of money that's sitting around ready to be put to work. And the way big companies put money to work is they buy other companies. They go around and do strategic acquisitions. Strategic, I don't want to call it a merger because it would not be a merger of equals. I would call it an acquisition that may sound or smell like a merger, but make no mistake, it's an acquisition where Murdoch will keep control. The reason why you want a firm and strong balance sheet, both in your personal life and in your business life, is balance sheet power gives you power everywhere. Balance sheet weakness makes you susceptible to all of the bad things that can happen in life and in business. That's why it is so important to keep your personal balance sheet always, to keep your income statement, to keep your revenues higher than your expenses, because you don't want to be in a position of weakness because you're going to get gobbled up by your partner, by the government, by your business, by your friend. You're going to get gobbled. What Fox is positioning itself to do is doing the gobbling. And to be a gobbler, you gotta want it and you gotta be able to do what you want. And Lachlan Murdoch has been really good about that. He's been very open and clear with his vision for Fox, what he sees for the Fox empire, where he sees sports fit into that empire. And now he's got the power, he's got the shares, he's got the balance sheet to get it done, and he's gonna get it done. MLB and the leagues take a look at this Lachlan getting the power, and they are licking their chops. If you're Noah Garden of Major League Baseball, you're calling up Lachlan today. Congrats, bud. We knew it was coming. Can't wait to start the conversation right now about what this new TV deal is going to look like when we've got the power to give you everything. You could come in and wipe all of your competitors off the board, give us $11 billion per year, and you've got it all across all of your networks. Having that ability to actually entertain the possibility of wiping your competitors off the board in a sport, that is music to the ears of fans. It's music to the ears of shareholders. It may be music to the ears of the league. And imagine the fear that Netflix, that Apple, that NBC, Comcast, imagine the fear that Fox's competitors have that there's no longer the distraction of the family squabble. It's over. It's been a lot of business over there at Fox. And he looked at his sister and brother and said, hey, man, it's just business. We'll be back tomorrow. This is nothing personal.